Hey everybody, I'm Mike Baird. If you're into a good story, or you like drum gear, or you like both, you're in the right place. Welcome to Mike's Drum Cubby.
You can hack it. You can hack it all the way. All the way. Here we go. Here we go.
Welcome, covers, to another episode of Mike's Drum Cubby. Hey, I want to let you know I created this channel for you, the Cubbies. So if you have questions about tuning or about my gear or about a certain product you'd like me to review, we'll try to make it happen. We're also stories. You like the stories. Some people aren't into the gear. They want to just hear the stories. Ask me a question about certain artists I've worked with, and we'll see if we can remember one and bring in a good one. And I'll also mention your name when we do that you sent it in, and we'll use it. We're also expanding the Cubby. So we're going to have contests. We're going to have giveaways of products. So there's a lot of exciting stuff coming to the Cubby. And today we have two stories. We have one about the Blaemire drum, and we'll be in the studio and you'll hear it and all that jazz. The other one involves Blaemire, but actually it deals with acting. Anyway, if you dig the channel, hit the subscribe button, give me a thumbs up, send me a comment. But without further ado, let's move forward and get to the Blaemire. The Blaemire snare. This is a fiberglass shell for you folks that don't know. I got this one at Valley Drum Shop, which you can tell from the label. And they were like the equivalent of Pro Drum Shop in Hollywood, except a smaller shop and in the San Fernando Valley. Valley Drum Shop also were sellers of most brands, including Blaemire, but they also made their own wood snare drums. Valley Drum were big sellers of Blaemire, and I wound up getting this drum through them. And I probably should have gotten a 6.5 by 14 at the time, but I didn't. But more on that later. But you can tell it has Ludwig hardware on it. It's a 3 by 13. It's super loud, but warm for fiberglass. I used this back in the day a bunch when Piccolos were really in style. It's a very edgy one. I think I used this actually on the Eddie Money record and the song Take Me Home Tonight. It's super nice. So we have the throw off, which is an old Ludwig, the butt end, and the Ludwig lugs as well. Oh, I wanted to mention one more thing. In case you haven't noticed it, it's a 6-lug drum. And there you go. There's the pitch. You got it up here, and of course you can go higher, and you might be able to go a little lower, but anyway, check it out. Welcome back. Anybody want to guess the weight of this drum? 5 pounds, 10 ounces. Okay, so the story goes like this. So I went into Pro Drum Shop. They were a Blaemire seller, and they didn't have any. So Bob Yeager at the time says, well, Alan's right down the street here. Why don't you go visit him, see what you like, and then we'll get it for you. Okay, great. So I drove over there, and here's Alan working in his garage. And I tell him, hey, I'm here. Bob sent me over from Pro Drum, and I wanted to hear your drums and try to figure out what I wanted. He goes, sure. So he had like drums out there, and I started playing them. And at the time it was like, yeah, I'm going to get it. And I don't know, there were other things I was doing. So for some reason I didn't wind up with it. at least at that time. But like a year goes by, and I start shopping at Valley Drum Shop, and they were a Blaemire user. And what they would do is they would order the shells, and then they would put it together however you wanted it, like, 6.5 by 14 or a Piccolo like I have or whatever. So I ordered a Piccolo. Well, the reason it has Ludwig hardware on it is back in those days, Blaemire did not have his own line of hardware. So they were using Rogers or Slingerland or Ludwig, or like on this drum. So Valley Drum did the same thing. They would drill the holes, put the hardware on it, put it together, get the hoops and all that kind of good stuff. So that's why it has Ludwig hardware on it, because that's what they had, and that fit a Ludwig Piccolo in the Ludwig line. So it was perfect. Anyway, and I used that drum, I'm almost positive, on Take Me Home Tonight, the Eddie Money song, and it sounds really good. It's really warm for fiberglass. It's very warm for fiberglass. Hal Blaine made Blaemire famous, basically, because he had this big concert tom kit. They were always green. They only came in one color. But when I got my drum at Valley Drum, they would wrap some of the drums. So what happened is that I wanted a big rock kit. So they made me a big rock kit, and they covered it with a red covering. So it was bright red. Now, we go to the second part of the story. So this bright red kit. So I did lots of the Rick Springfield albums, and then Rick wound up doing a movie. And they wanted to use, the band in the movie. Well, Rick wanted me to be in the movie because we were friends. So I'm in the movie, whatever, and I'm in the band. Well, the director really liked me, and he said, I think you can act. I want you to do you. Now, the interesting thing is, early on, before I became a studio musician, when I was just at the kind of the infancy stages of that, I was doing some acting. Now, I wouldn't exactly say it's good acting, but whatever. Anyway, so the movie was called Hard to Hold. I called it Hard to Take. But anyway, just kidding. Anyway, lots of fans of this movie, whatever. So I'm in it, and I have this part, and, I'm kind of being myself, wacky, whatever. And the director would just say, hey, do this and do that and do this thing. But look, don't judge me on my acting, because, what? Are you kidding? What? Really? Are you kidding me? Oh my goodness. Really? Oh my God. Oh, you love me. You really love me. Anyway, so that's kind of the story with that. But in the movie Hard to Hold, you'll see we're in the studio, which is Sound City, and you'll see those drums in the background. And I did use those drums on the soundtrack for that movie. So there you can see, you can hear that they sound great. Well, anyway. So that's kind of the two stories for today. Again, this channel is for you. I'd love to hear your comments, your questions, requests, all that kind of good stuff. Please hit the subscribe button, give me a thumbs up, send me all that kind of good stuff. Any comments about you'd like to see this or hear that or whatever stories, I'd love to hear from you. And so we come to the end, and what do we say?
And that's it.
And we'll see you in a minute.